Joining us now, as he does on each and every Tuesday, Patrick Johnston of the Province Post Media, who's homesick with the kids. But hey, at least you're home. And digesting last night's 7-6 win over the Montreal Canadiens in overtime, the 4-goal comeback, we are asking on the
That's
Bodog
tough to
poll
digest,
question.
by the way. That's like going to like a Vegas buffet. That's what it's a Vegas buffet digestion session, which is it takes a while.
You've eaten too much.
Yes, yeah.
And you're not sure about that last piece of fish and how long it had been sitting out there. We're asking on our Bodog poll question, craziest Canucks game you've ever seen?
No, because I had to cover, it was an 8-7 Canucks Avalanche a couple seasons ago. I had to cover that one. That was crazy because that was one of those ones where you were constantly rewriting the top of your story because not just was there endless goals, but the leads kept changing. But I mean, that was last night was wild, of course.
What year is that, Patrick? What are we talking here? 8-7 caller. Did the Avalanche win or did the Canucks win?
It's 2018, November 3rd, 2018.
Okay.
Canucks won. They came back. It was wild. It was an absolutely wild game. Derek Pouliot scored the overtime winner. Patterson.
That's quite right. If you're going to get an overtime winner from Derek Pouliot, that is the winner and new champion. Crazy. I don't recall it all that well, though.
It was a Friday night, 5-point night for Patterson in his rookie year.
Oh, right.
2 goals for Boeser.
Right.
Louis Eriksson and Marcus Granlund rounding out the scoring.
Right. Now I remember. Friday night. Yes.
It was a wild one. I mean, there was McKinnon. I remember McKinnon. I mean, it was one of those ones where, I mean, the guy's always amazing, but it was just one of those games where he was just flying all over the ice. And then Pedersen kind of matched him, punch for punch, and it was, it was one of those. It was one of those ones where you're like, okay, yeah, maybe this team is kind of fun.
Well, let's talk offense. Let's talk fun here because. As we saw last night, the Canucks goaltending may not be up to NHL snuff here going forward with Spencer Martin and Colin Delia and Thatcher Demko on the sidelines for 6 weeks. And one thing we do know is they have good offensive players up front who can score a whole lot. Do you see more of these types of games in the near future?
Yes. I mean, there's been a lot of things written about this, but more than anything, the fact that save percentages are so down across the league. I mean, obviously they were falling last year, fell the season before that. I've written a couple stories. I mean, a couple people have written stories about this. The main argument being that basically teams are, fourth liners are better at shooting than they used to be. And so there's just more opportunity, or there's more people looking to score. But yeah, I mean, the Canucks, I think it was Jeff pointed out, they're averaging 3.5 goals per game. Now, of course, the problem is they're giving up too many goals, but they are a team that can score. I mean, the whole league can score, so the Canucks aren't exactly standing out. But yeah, no, you're going to have more games like this. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind. I mean, they go down 4-0, and you're like, okay, but I was kind of like, it could happen. Things could change, and I had to step out for a minute early in the third period, and I kind of came home and Candace, they came back. And I'm like, what? But of course, I shouldn't have been surprised because this is where we're at. So.
Yeah. No, my better half came back from work. She's like, still 4-0? I'm like, no, it's actually 4-2. Just to quantify what you were saying, 400 games played in the NHL this year. Save percentage is .904. That's down from last year, which was .907. Heck, guys, 15-16, that season was .915, so it's down a full 10 points from that. Goals against average right now is 3 across the board.
It's the 80s.
And that would be the first time it hits 3 since 95-96.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the Canucks are the 80s personified here. 16 of the Canucks' 26 games have involved one team or the other scoring 5 goals. Either and in multiple occurrences, both teams score 5. So I haven't even qualified that yet. But 16 of the 26 games, somebody's getting to 5, Patrick.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at power plays too, 23%. Like 3% across the league. Being up because it was 20.6 last year. I mean, it is. Well, it's not a bad time to be a hockey fan. That's for sure. And the NHL has, to I think their credit, has tried to make that more of a thing. There are obviously lots of things that aren't great about the league, but when you're averaging what? Sorry, so everyone's 3.2 goals per game per team. You got 6.4 goals per game. That's great. I think it's.
What do the Canucks do with this information? Is the big question, because games like that, and there's been others too. They've won 8-5 games and crazy. Like, what do the Canucks brass do with this information?
Sign more wingers.
I mean, it kind of muddies their evaluation process, I think, because you can see last night as a success, and in the small microcosm it is, because it's a win, but of course you can't surrender 6 goals on a regular basis.
No, and that if the over under is basically 3 goals a game, right? If you're giving up 3 or fewer, you're probably going to win, and that remains the thing that they need to be focused on. And, we've seen how poor, for the most part, their defending has been this season. They had that blip on the road trip, especially in Colorado, where they were really good. They took away the middle of the ice. They had that game against LA. They took away the middle of the ice. But those performances have been the exception and not the rule. And the rule has been mostly what we saw last night, which, that inability to give their goalies a chance. Spencer Martin had a really nice start to the year, but hasn't been great lately. But then again, goaltending in general seems to be, I don't know if the word is down, but they're giving up more. But I look at a couple of goals in the first period last night, and just the puck movement that Montreal was able to get around the zone, with the Canucks just kind of spinning and chasing and not able to actually prevent anything. That to me remains the issue that the Canucks need to focus on.
Let's talk Brock Boeser with you. How surprised were you to hear of the fact that he's been looking for a change of scenery via his agent for some time now, or if you believe that, or if you believe Saturday was a catalyst towards a trade request? And value of Boeser. Blake and I have a bit of a disagreement on that. We're trying to figure out what Boeser is worth on the trade market.
Well, I mean, I think the moment that the Canucks landed on Andrei Kuzmenko, you knew that pressure was going to start to come down on guys like Boeser and Garland, because they all play the same position. And the fact that Boeser has never worked with Horvat, as a center, it basically told you he's in a funny spot. And it was kind of wild to me when he signed in the summer, because I was talking to Ben Hankinson off and on, and certain things, you just try to get a sense of what he was thinking, and I was, to be honest, a little bit surprised given where I think things were when I had last spoken with him, and I was surprised they got the deal that they did. He's Boeser in the end signed a deal that set him up for this sort of position the last time round, but in the end, he wants to be a 30-goal scorer, and that may yet happen, but he's a guy that in many ways his game has evolved, and for the most part it's improved, although defensively he has not been very good this year, and I've highlighted that a couple times. But he's a guy that's kind of a bit of a player without sort of I don't even know what the word is. You can't sort of peg him as what he is, right? Because he has offensive smarts. He has improved his game, or at least he had improved his game. But there's nothing that sets him apart.
Yeah.
And that becomes a problem. And so, that I think will be the biggest challenge in finding him a new home. Is what does he add to another team? And Cam Charron wrote a really good piece on Saturday on his own little website there, just identifying a few items that if he were putting together a sort of statistical analysis for another team, issues to highlight, which was that he's not contributing on the forecheck, he's not carrying the puck in the zone, he's struggling to get the puck, he's struggling to contribute on zone exits. Like in general, he's not his play sort of before you pick up, before you get in the zone has not been great.
There's a lot of things he's not, Patrick. I was talking to some NHL people last night, and therein lies the problem. Like, he's got the rarest of skill, the ability to shoot the puck and score goals, and sometimes even score goals from distance. But a bad center or a bad skater who needs a creative centerman who isn't like forecheck or third line, bottom six capable. So you really have to find the right spot for him, and you're a little bit pigeonholed with the player when you have him, not to mention he's on a big ticket.
Those are attributes that prevent him from being a $10 million winger at some point. But at $6 million, there's a lot of teams that could use that player, I think.
Yeah, I still think, if he did those things better, the Canucks wouldn't be in the spot they're now in, right? Like
right.
I think you're exactly right. Like, I think there's still value in the player, and I think they're in a season where the cap wasn't so tight, I think this would be easier. But the fact that there's still, more than half your teams, I think, are in LTIR right now. Like, there's just not a lot of options.
Do we not know about the cap number for next year until summer? Remind me when we find that out.
Gary said it's going to go right down to the wire, that it was 50-50, whether it would be the incremental increase of $1 million or potentially up to $4.5 million. But you do sort of have to wait, I think, even through the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. Patrick, doesn't he normally let you know with his Stanley Cup final press conference?
Yeah, it's certainly not a thing that you can plan for now. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, so much of this is predictive, Blake. They're forecasting hockey-related revenues across 32 barns, so it's
wouldn't that be helpful though for the Canucks to find that out? Like, but not even like right now, but even just before the trade deadline.
Well,
wouldn't the trade deadline be more fun if you knew what you had to work with?
We have said this in the past. We wish they could move to a schedule whereby you had more certainty of. Did they used to talk about cost certainty? Yeah. Is the reason why we had it last season was cost certainty, that you would have cap certainty by the deadline or earlier in the season than we have it now.
Yeah, it's in the end, we have seen that teams are bad at planning.
Yes. In some cases, spectacularly bad at planning.
Yeah. It is wild to see, you go look at Cap Friendly. I just brought it up here and just look at how teams are using their LTIR. And you look at a team like Columbus and they actually have $10 million in cap space because of how they're managing their roster. But it's a lot of teams that are hard up against it. They just have no projected cap space. There's a dozen teams that are in that spot. And those are not teams that are really going to be easily at a $6 million hockey player. And some of them, you look at a team like, I don't know, like, would New Jersey be interested in a guy like Brock Boeser? I'm not sure, but there are teams certainly that is in a position that they like where they're going and the direction that they're going. It's a difficult position that Boeser is in, but like I said, I still think he's a guy that can. I still think he is a guy that can go somewhere. I don't think it's going to be easy, but there's motivation to make this happen, I guess is what I'm saying.
I don't want to get on E's and O's, so I'll correct it now. Last year on December the 10th, Bettman said it was going up $1 million.
Right.
Yes, but
it's
that's
not officially
because...
set, but it's a pretty hard and fast projection from the GM meetings there in December. So maybe we get something soon.
Yeah,
last year we knew it was going up $1 million because of the pandemic, didn't they?
No, they said it was going to be flat for 3 years, so the $1 million was a bit of a surprise.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they've generally been like that mid-season update. I think has generally been pretty accurate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, once because they can see how things are going. Like they're actually in the buildings and they can see how teams are doing and tickets sold and all that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, and there's a few...
But I don't recall the commissioner on the eve of a season ever saying, it's like a 50-50 call for next year, whether it's going to go up or whether it's going to be the incremental.
Well, I think they were a little bit hedging on pandemic, whether or not there was going to be resurgence and all that sort of thing. And it looks like, and we'll all knock on wood here, that we can probably get through 82 games, I'm guessing here. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yep. Bruce, I think the Demko injury may well extend Bruce. Blake's not sure that it will have any effect, but my whole thing is, look, if the goaltending's going to be bad here, why bother making a coaching change? But what are you hearing? What are you thinking on the coach's future?
It's such a tough read. Like, yeah, I mean, obviously a while back there was, like I said, I heard somebody was here. I still don't know who it was, but they were poking around on something. But yeah, I mean, Bruce is just going to carry on doing what he's doing. I'm sure it's a very strange situation. The fact that there's no discussion, and plenty of other people talked about this, but the fact there was no discussion, Friday night, Saturday, that the significance of the game for Boeser, the fact that Bruce wasn't aware of that. I mean, I couldn't help but pause when I saw Rick Bowness talking about yesterday, was asked about Hockey Fights Cancer Night, because I think that's what it was in Winnipeg last night. I couldn't help but think of sort of the difference there. That's whether he, we all have things that we focus on, and Boudreau is not focused on the theme nights, and that's perfectly fine. But there is an extra significance to an event like that, and that just spoke to me, the sort of, again, the lack of sort of communication and coherence to what's going on behind the scenes. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Bruce lasts out the year. But I also wouldn't be surprised if they decide to make a change.
And it doesn't accomplish anything. Yeah. To my point from previous shows, it doesn't accomplish anything other than sort of ceremonial and the appearance of moving on. But tactically, probably accomplishes nothing.
No.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, I think there's a case to be made. It's sort of put Bruce out of his misery. But I mean, as long as they're winning.
But even in wins, did you see his face at the end of last night?
Well, I mean,
he looked like he'd been through the ring.
Did you see his face after the fourth goal?
Yeah. Oh my God! After the fourth goal, I thought he was gonna. Yeah.
I'm like,
go ahead.
I was like, I was sitting there thinking, I was just like, man, like, are nights like this, is Bruce's wife worried about Bruce's heart? Because it's just like, holy smokes, how frustrating was that first period? That your team starts well and then completely hits the skids and can't do anything right. And and every game this year has been, it's almost felt like has been a new version of or a new challenge, a new crisis, a new head scratcher, and a guy like Bruce who's had a lot of success in his career. I don't imagine realistically he's really ever had a season quite like this one. I mean, he mentioned obviously that season in Anaheim where they started out terribly and then they pulled their socks up and had made the playoffs. But just the ups and downs and the roller coaster of this season is just so. I mean, last night's game was a roller coaster, and it was kind of the microcosm of the season. And that more than anything, someone said, "Do you think Bruce is going to resign?" I'm like, no, because he doesn't get paid. But like, holy smokes, how much fun is he actually having? I don't know. I mean, he's working in hockey, and he would tell you that that's what he wants to be doing. But I'm never quite sure it's this that he wants.
You could feel the frustration of Boudreau, King, and Cull as the camera panned to them as they left the bench after 20 minutes last night. Like absolutely. you could sympathize with those three coaches as they made the turn down the tunnel, what was about to be said, and just what they were thinking after watching that first period go against them the way it did, particularly the goaltending as well. Yikes. Patrick, out of time. Thanks for yours, buddy. You have a fantastic week. Take care of the sick kiddos, and we'll catch them next Tuesday.
Absolutely, guys. Take care.